Morning, everybody. Jim Benton here with Chorus for the daily briefing. I'm joined today by Tom Boccard, SVP of Sales at GlobalData, a leading data analytics company. Hey, Tom, how are you doing today?
Hey, Jim. Doing well. Doing well. Good to see you. Thanks for having me here
Yeah,
today.
appreciate you kicking off Thursday with us.
Yeah, it is Thursday, huh?
I always look at the top of the screen, but yeah. Tom, you're out in New York. How's life out there? How's your team holding up?
Yeah, we're doing fairly well. All things considered, it's been a bit of a roller coaster here and there, but right now we've got in a good groove. Work-wise, focus, health-wise, people are they're doing well, still sheltering in place like you guys out west, so
Yep,
all
yep.
good from there.
Tom, you mentioned that your team is predominantly inside sales. Is that right? Or maybe tell us a little bit about your sales organization.
Sure. Yeah. So GlobalData, we have nearly 400 salespeople globally from that end. So my role, I'm SVP of Sales, focused on new business here in the States, particularly within a handful of the verticals we cover. So healthcare and then our industrial groups. So my team is probably about 90% or so are inside sales in New York City. So we got an upside down turn, to say the least, these past couple of weeks. So it definitely was an adjustment for a bit there.
Yeah. What surprised you? How has it been working out?
It's obviously I think time management at first was crazy. Just Zoom, 5-minute, 2-minute conversation in the office is now 30-minute Zoom, right? At least. But it was really, for us, you didn't realize just how much you kind of were feeding off each other. Whether it's the energy wise, whether it's, sharing and learning, just kind of like by hearing and overhearing people and just having those coffee talks or, whatever it might be that where people are catching up on. So there was that. And then, along with that energy, you have kind of the competition of like, oh, you got a good call, you closed the deal. Those were some areas where it was like, oh, we did not think about that, as opposed to just like the standard kind of infrastructure, like, can you do your job at home?
Have you figured, this is a tough question we're all trying to figure out. Have you figured out a way to get that excitement and energy to percolate?
So, yeah, sometimes, I think for me, there's two things that have worked pretty well, I would say. So the first one is, it's definitely, we do our stand-ups. We have the daily team stand-ups. We got, the chat groups in Zoom. So you kind of can all still communicate as close as you could in the office. But so we put a big emphasis on, small wins from our end. So it's, right now it can come in any size. So it could be who had a PR and talk time for the day, or booked the most meetings, or closed their biggest deal, or just closed a deal. Whatever it is, it's just celebrate those victories. I'm a huge advocate of success creates momentum and really builds on itself. It's that small bricks build big houses kind of mentality.
Love it.
So that's definitely helped, and it's helping people see that there are successes. It's not just like, oh man, I made 50 calls and didn't speak to anyone, or the 2 people that I spoke to were, getting railed by their kids coming in the room screaming. So it shows that, there are successes that are happening. And on the other end of it, we're trying a lot of different incentives, keep that competition level high. It's not huge incentives. Some are bigger than others, but we're running multiples at a time, and it's really mixing up the teams as well. So it's not just your specific team. We're creating teams within teams and trying to get that, the competitive juices flowing.
What's an example of a type of a way that how do you run an incentive? So maybe not the financial side, but what's an example of a type of incentive you're running?
Yeah. So, one right now is primarily focused on, it's opportunities that are generated in the pipeline.
Okay.
Looking further down the line though. So one of them is looking at proposals on a daily and weekly basis, as well as revenue. So some things that we're putting in there though, also it's running for a month. So we put some streak bonuses in. So if you close a deal every week, you get a legend bonus point added in there. 2 weeks in a row, you close a deal, you get a bonus. you get 7 new proposals out to market, there's a bonus. So it's just, it's encouraging the activities you want to see from leadership, of course, and building and progressing pipelines. But it just tries to take some of the monotony out of it.
I mean, that sounds incredibly fun. I mean, I look at the data, for the week, what we've shared earlier in the week is that meetings have been down 8% week over week. From what you're talking about, I would expect that your data is different, but what are you seeing on your own team?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, week on week, if I'm looking at last week to this week so far, our meetings are relatively flat on that end. So there's not a decline, not a big jump.
Yeah.
But we've put some different things in effect that I think will have a drastic impact on next week's meetings for us, and the meetings after. And it's been a shift of focus. So we're it's account-based sales, right? That we focus on, ABM, whatever you want to buzzword you want to call it. But it's taking it from just kind of that target audience of, here are the companies you should be focusing on, and bucketing them together to really micro campaigns. So going a couple levels deeper, where it's not only here are the companies, they're all very, very similar, and here are the people that you should be calling within these companies. And then it's, some people might look at it and be like, it's micromanagement. It's micro support though. It's like there's so much going on, and we put a group on this. So it's like, hey, we need to talk daily about it and see what's working, what's not working. Like, I know they're doing the work. It's not like, are you making calls? It's what's the result? What are the conversations? So we can pivot and grow off that. So the reason I say I expect a difference, we've really dove into this the past 2-3 days now. And the collective group that's within this particular micro campaign has generated more meetings booked in those 2.5 days of stats I looked at than they did, I think, the last week and a half, 2 weeks combined. So like a real laser focus has, I think, created, confidence in them. A little bit of, the conversations kind of build on each other too. So it's standard tactics, but I think really like laser focused and drilling in as
share just a little more. I'm a huge fan of the beachhead, the second half of the Crossing the Chasm book, and I've used that sort of micro targeting approach. But when you say these micro campaigns, what exactly does that mean? Yeah,
so it's from my end, I don't want to go into too many particulars to give away kind of the secret sauce, right? But it's really like, look, you got to identify within your markets that you're calling, that you service, where are the potential people that are still, actively buying right now? So what are the events that are happening in the sector? Look at the facts that are there. We are a data-based organization. We cover 18 verticals. So we have that at our fingertips, thankfully. But it's out there for anyone. So any company, any individual could do it. And it's saying, well, where within that group, how can I, kind of really increase, have a high volume at scale, but of personalization at the same time. And it's really understanding from them, who are the people whose roles are being impacted right now. It's understanding your ICP, your ideal customer profiles, like at a level that you've never had before. So you're going into those individuals and you're saying like, look, I know this is what is impacting you to achieve your job now. Like really leaning into them and their objectives or the opportunities they're trying to exploit and how it's being impacted by the world around us. And then second, going to the company level. So it's really, it's doing this and it's, we're testing scripts along the ways, angles, challenges that we think, challenges that we hear, and starting to integrate them in. We always joke, you have the A/B testing that people do with marketing campaigns.
Yep.
We're doing ABCD testing, EF testing. You got it. And that's where the constant focus and kind of, I guess, reshaping of the teams and their angles, their conversation points come in.
I think the speed in which people are sharing, you mentioned that on the ABCDEF, you're just sharing these insights daily. I mean, you're coming together, what's working, what's not working. Are you getting deeper into the action? Our data has shown that 60% of execs are being pulled into sales calls. Or you find that you're getting pulled in more?
Yeah, definitely. There's certain reps that are still they want to stay where they are. So I'm pushing my way into those,
Yeah.
but absolutely, it's on the front line. So we can make these changes across the group, share what I'm hearing directly, because sometimes it gets you know the telephone game gets watered down a bit, or maybe certain points are missed. But for me, it's also important to understand what's working at these companies. How are they still operating efficiently, with all the changes? And are there different, not just how can we help these companies be more successful in our sales campaigns, but just how can we be more successful as an organization? Like, how can my sales teams operate more efficiently and effectively now?
So Tom, how is your team connecting with people? It sounds like a very strong outbound motion. We talked about empathy. We've talked about just how to connect right now. How are you thinking about this on your team?
Yeah, so go to market route wise, we're leaning into the phone heavily. I'm sure your email box is similar to mine, Jim, and it's like gone up 5x
Yeah.
since we've kind of moved here. So, we are still going emails, of course, trying to personalize those and do it, but we're really leaning into the phones heavily. And I think what really makes the big difference on the phones, again, it's the messaging. It's to your point of empathy and that it's not so much just like, hey, how are you? Are you okay during the, it's
Yeah.
like it's yeah, asking people how they're doing. Yeah, talking about your, how are you bouncing with kids at home and all that, because those are important things, and we should be asking it not because it's on a script, because we actually care and we want to have the conversations, but it's taking that empathy to that business level, like I was mentioning. So it's really leaning into the individuals, like, look, how are you achieving your objectives, faced with working from home now as opposed to being out on the road meeting clients?
Yeah.
How is this impacting, in your industry, projects are, not you particularly, Jim, but Mr. Prospect, projects are being put on pause. So how does that help? Where are you pivoting to try to still hit your numbers for the year, or to hit the growth aspects? So it's,
I
it's,
loved your message about commercial empathy. And I get it now the way you think about that, which is the empathy for the role, the empathy for both the human side of the nuance of the personal side. I've got kids 30 feet away, which I'm just not used to having as I'm working. It's different, but also the empathy of our jobs are really different, and we have to continue pushing forward and solving problems. And some of that's the commercial empathy as well. It's just the empathy for doing our roles.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think you and I spoke previously about it. Business is still being done. Like,
Yep.
people are still working. There is, like, it's work from home, so it's not, they need to still accomplish those objectives. So it's like, you need to lean into those, and those objectives have changed, right? Like, it's a much different world than it was the end of February, for
Yeah.
everyone. So it's like, if you, everyone's pitches have changed by this point, I would hope, right? Like, and I hope they understand, like, there's different aspects they need to lean on of their services or solutions that are more valuable at this time. But it's understanding the root of those, like, who are the individuals that are impacted by that, and really leaning in there, and it separates yourself, right?
Yep.
We're not the only people that are calling. I mean, I think some stats you guys have, calls are down, but people are still calling. They haven't evaporated.
That's right.
Uh, they're still getting a ton of emails. They're getting the LinkedIn pushes, posts, whatever, right? Like, you got to separate yourself from the crowd, and I think the right way to do it is, to go in and help them, particularly.
Talk to me about metrics. What's changed in the way that you look at your team now that a lot of us were used to walking the halls or feeling the pulse and the energy? When I say a lot of us, the industry had, inside sales teams were in clusters. Today, we really need to be a data-driven sales org, otherwise we won't know what's happening. But what metrics are you looking at? What's different from now versus 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, for me, one metric that jumps out that I've really put more of an emphasis on, is conversations. So talk time as opposed to meetings booked. Because again, that will help with all the
Yep.
pivoting and the course correcting of who are we targeting, what are we what are we saying, how are we, addressing them to go in there. So I definitely lean on, that metric more now than I think I have in a long time. but it's, it's top of funnel is extremely important. So I'm looking constantly at that front end, and it's in two bits, right? So it's first, the addition of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Are we adding companies in consistently enough? Are we adding them up so that we don't have any dips, like your stats are showing, that meetings go down week on week, that it's staying flat or hopefully growing? But secondly, what that first progression of pipeline. So it's one thing to book a meeting, and then the other bit is, does it happen? So I keep a focus on those areas. On some of my teams where those are they're flowing, so kind of that micro campaign I'm talking about earlier, what I'll start leaning in now on is more of the latter stages. So like, and looking specifically at the days that opportunities stay at the stages. So how long is it sitting at demo complete before it moves to proposal, or proposal to verbal?
Yeah.
Because early indications, we're seeing, it has that 2008, 2009 familiarity to me, where it's slower decision-making process. All of a sudden, deals that were at the line have now taken an extra week or two. They're still closing, so that's good.
Yep.
But what I'm trying to look at is, are there ways to shorten those delays? Are there ways to avoid them?
What did you do in 2008 when you had to think about? A lot of us were there. I think I was doing media sales back in 2008, and I was actually just starting a company, so I was in between the two. But
okay.
Any learnings from that 2008 running sales orgs on keeping the motion going, keeping the velocity of deals? Business does continue, as we've both said.
Yeah. Well, 2008, I was an individual contributor at that time at a conference company, a B2B conference company.
Okay.
My target audience was financial services.
Geez, my goodness.
So that was
You're asking the right guy for learnings then.
Yeah. I mean, and so it's similar to what I'm talking about with the micro campaigns. So I found the people that were still doing business, found the angles that were still supportive of the events that I was particularly selling on. But what allowed me to maintain success in that time, and I think I had one of my top years in like 2008-9 frame.
Incredible.
But it wasn't because I know the secret sauce. I worked my tail off. Like I doubled down, like I didn't make less calls. I made, 2-3 times the calls. Emailing was not as prevalent.
Yep.
At least for me at that time. But I was emailing like crazy, probably atrocious copy, but I was out there. I was just trying to, like, anyone and everyone I could speak to, I was talking to. I was building pipeline.
Yeah.
I was understanding what, it meant to them.
That's what I remember too. I remember sitting in a kitchen. I was starting a company called ClearSlide, and I was hustling like I had never hustled before, emailing VPs saying, give me 4 minutes and I will completely change the way you sell. And, but we were getting the meetings, and we were having the meetings, and the volume was incredible. And, we built a company in a tough period. And I think you're saying the exact same thing about that focus. And what's the stats? Only 2 to 3 deals out of 10 close. So that micro focus is just getting really focused at the people that are the buyers right now. And I think it's awesome feedback.
Yeah, thanks. Well, and to that point, first off, I wish I knew about ClearSlide back then, because I think it would have helped me a lot, seeing who's actually looking at my proposals and everything. But
well, I'm glad to be on the conversation now. So now we can see what people are actually saying in the conversation.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So it's equally, or probably more important now, right? But
exactly.
It's for me, to that point though, Joe, I think you see a lot of people that are in that kind of the wait and see from a prospect standpoint. So that 2 or 3 and 10 is now 2 or 3 and 20. And it's not because the ops are weaker. It's just because the ops, those are going to take more time. Their budgets are frozen. They're the wait and see, so you need to be out there more and have that and identify quickly, like, do they go into my nurture bucket? Is this one that I'm going to provide value to over the next month, 2, 3 months? And then it's time to strike. And if it is, like, just qualify them quicker. So then you can lean in and really spend the bulk of your time on those 2 or 3 ops that are ripe right now. And then you're not spinning your wheels, because that opportunity cost of time you can't get back.
Yeah.
You need to be out there building.
In the crisis zones, when things change, just everybody gets real. And I think people are real with their time, they're real with their feedback, they're a bit more direct, and you sort of appreciate it, right? Thank you for, and by the way, real and pushing back. I remember pushing people back who said no budget. And I said, look, I think your job depends on you embracing this new technology, and I've got the answer. So I respectfully need more time with you, because I think you're going to buy me a beer in 6 months and say, thanks for pushing back, because that was game changer. And it was. And I think there's a lot of stuff out today that really can help teams, and we got to fight for them in a polite way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's like, look, just because one budget's closed doesn't mean the others aren't available, right? Like, you have, like, no one's going to conferences anymore. You're not flying to meet clients. You're not, that money was earmarked. Yeah. Put it to use to help you in today's time. There's.
Tom, I wanted to get your thoughts. GlobalData has put out a tremendous amount of data, as you mentioned. Maybe you can give some just quick color on the data you're putting out there, the report, and then specifically just we can jump into this particular stat.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing, so we put out biweekly or update biweekly what we call our COVID-19 executive briefing. So it's really just a cross-vertical report. It helps you understand the COVID-19 outbreak, its economic impact, and implications for specific sectors. So that's something that we're making available to everyone, and those are to the micro pitches, and that we use that. It tells us for the healthcare industry, for the oil and gas, for construction. So but it's constantly refreshed and updated, so it gives everyone a holistic view and a today of it.
Nice. And that's just on your. You just go to the homepage and you can find this.
Yeah. I think it's like the first, or if it's not the first thing that pops up, it's the second on there. You can't miss it. It'll smack you in the face.
Love it. Well, hey, Tom, I just want to say thanks for kicking off Thursday with us. Super fun talking to you. I'm inspired. I want to work on your sales team after hearing about the contest, the micro-targeting. It's you're doing it right. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Jim, and it was a pleasure. I mean, I got you gave me. It's lunchtime, but I'm re-energized like it's the morning. I feel great now.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks, Tom. I'll see you around. Cheers.
See you. Thanks, bud.